I'll come out.
This is my brother Fred. This is Morton F. This is what Fred and Dad.
There's some things you either Wednesday, I think, was one.
There I am. This is a big
Oh, yeah. No, things up. No, this side, Parkdale. You know where the propane gas,
That picture is the top of the world.
I'm 30.
You're after 22.
Oh, I'm waiting for it.
Well, by the hospital on your left.
Yeah. Keep going, you know, tomorrow review Pontiac is. I know that. It's hard to do it. It's just down a couple hundred feet, that street goes to the right.
I got a lot of pictures.
Yeah, just two houses.
Was it dark down there?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff around.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's going.
Yeah.
He's doing real good.
But
Church over here.
I'll be around. Okay.
I wanna get together with you before.
Oh, I
Stuff here that I got to.
Okay,
Yeah, labeled and get an understanding on.
Oh, it's a form.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Sometimes I'll be up here, just come on over. I'll be, next week, I'm done running around. And then the government position I have is Monday when I get done with that.
We used to get the biggest fish.
All right?
Yeah, I'll work you out.
Glen Lake. Real big one. My dad was the one that got most of them.
So it wasn't on in Cypress, but it was on in Elm.
I didn't.
You wanna come to our last year?
Yes, yes.
No.
First time I could go.
These cookies are not bad.
They look pretty good.
I'll see you later.
Just fine.
Well, I really enjoyed Fred's discussion.
Yeah.
You know, because it brought back things to me. And it reminded me, I knew some of the same things, you know, and everything.
Holy
Everybody
be careful.
One of the pictures I have is,
Be careful.
it looks like it would be where they were unloading, logs. And I think it must be in that area rather than, I got a postcard. And it sounds like, I don't know if it was taken Verticville or over there, because it was, the way the picture is taken, certain hills in the background look closer. And it may be just the kind of camera it was.
Of course, I think they brought some of them down at what's called the Valley Trail.
Some of the pictures are
Well,
hard
it
to
come off
tell.
of Division Street there's a lot of them come off of,
When I say division, right away, I think Traverse City.
Oh, is it the
That's
county?
city by names, division.
Organization.
Oh, isn't it?
Yes, and
I know the
Sarah?
meeting's over with, but I still want to ask something. Julie Dickinson was supposed to give a talk today.
She is going to.
Right
Oh, she is?
now.
Oh, thank you, Julie.
Thank you for introducing her, Aunt Sarah. Boy, lucky somebody keeps an eye on us. Julia, take it away. Sorry.
But now this is not originally of the area, because our family came to the East Leland area. I didn't come down to Glen Lake until 1942 when Fred and I were married. But in 1922, our family left Dayton, Ohio in an old, we call it pre-owned Mitchell car with running board and isinglass curtain. I have a picture, in fact, of my sister. She's getting ready to leave on this trip, and there was a running board. We put our suitcases and this old car, but this, we'll just pass it around if you'd like to. And that's the only picture I have. But anyway, and that was a Mitchell, which was a pre-runner, I think, of the Maxwell, and then came on.
I just can't believe you
Then
become
came-
that far in the car.
Yeah.
well, the thing is
Jack
that
Benny,
the
the
roads were so
Maxwell.
bad. It wasn't that the cars were as bad as the roads were bad.
This
They
was,
just worked some roads. In fact, it took us 2 days and a half to get up from Dayton, which is about 450 miles now. Now, it may have been more because we didn't come straight on an interstate the way we could do now. But my father was an accountant with a firm who was the head of it, rented a cottage in East Leland, the Rawls cottage it was, and Mr. Battelle, the head of the Battelle Accountants, rented this cottage for the summer. And he wondered if any of his cohorts would like to come up to vacation there. So my father signed up for a month. And so we left early on a morning, and it took us, as I said, 2.5 days. And I'm trying to remember our itinerary. I know that at one time when we came up on what is now M22 and US 31, but it was called M11. And every now and then you see a little shop, M11, EMMA 11, a little place to eat, that kind of thing. But we came up more or less through the center of Michigan, because when we got into what is now US 131, they were simply building the road. It had been an old logging road, and you could still see the logs. Now then we'd have to stop while they'd remove the log and put some gravel down, and then we'd start on. But that was in 1922. Now in my family, there were 3 of us girls, and I was the oldest one. I was 13. My next sister was 3 years younger, and then the one whose picture's on that room.
Oh, I wondered who that was.
And that was my sister Louise, and she was 8 years old. And we apparently there was a Dayton Automobile Club. I don't remember that, but we did have a map, and then we had instructions on a strip of paper, a little bit wider than this, but it would say, go 1 mile to a large oak tree, turn right for 1.5 miles to a schoolhouse. But that was the kind of directions we had, and I wish to goodness I had kept them, because they would be so interesting to have. But I remember, and I was kind of the navigator, and I would hold the map and then read this off. And then when it rained, I would have to wipe. We didn't have electric wipe on the windshield, and we had rain. So it was my job to reach over in front of my father. It was just one windshield light. It wasn't the 2 like you have now, but just one for the driver's side. So that was one of my jobs too. But I think maybe this early navigation that I had has made me so much interested in maps, because I can sit down with a map and just maps and crossword puzzles. I can just become lost, and all my worries leave me when I can get hold of a map. And Gracie's been helping me get rid of some of my maps, but even if I have 3 or 4 maps of the same state, I want to keep it. Maybe I'll need it sometime. No, I probably will never need it. But at any rate, we arrived in Sutton's Bay, and it was dark. It was raining. We didn't know which way to go, but the map told us to turn left just outside of Sutton's Bay. And then the directions we had were take the next road to the right. Well, the next road to the right that we saw went up to a barnyard with a barking dog, and we decided that wasn't the road. It was simply a farmer's house, and we came on down, and then, which is now 204 between Sutton's Bay and called Prouvemont in those days. We had Leelanau. And we drove there, and it was about midnight, and rain, and we didn't know just which way to go when we got to the end of 204. I got to the outskirts of Prouvemont. And here were 3 young kids in a roadster, top down, and just enjoying the rain. And they said, I said, can you tell us where the Rawls come to? Oh, sure, we're just out skylarking, just follow us. So for another 3.5 miles up the east side of North Lake Leelanau, we drove and finally got to the Rawls cottage, and down from the 641 now with the East Leland Road, and went went down to a kind of a dark, narrow pathway to this cottage. And in the meantime, that same day, my mother's sister and her family had arrived, but they came by train from Dayton. And then they had to rent a car, a kind of a taxi van of some kind to get out. But they were snugly settled in this house, in this cottage. And we got in, and right away, we just loved it. It didn't have windows, it had the shutters that would drop down, or they had a netting over the window to keep out the bugs and the mosquitoes, and I guess we had no seams, I'm not sure. But at any rate, whenever it rained, then down came the wooden shutters. We didn't have any running water. We had a good hand pump in the kitchen. We had a little outhouse which provided the necessary pre-plumbing activities, and we had an iron stove, a cook stove. But it was primitive, but we just loved it. And it was unspoiled country then. There weren't too many people around, and we kind of liked that. Because the road around the north end of Lake Leelanau, there was quite a steepness, and I've always been a little bit wary of heights and steepness, but we did manage to drive around to Leland, which was a distance of about 7 miles, I believe, at that time, and to get groceries. But we rented, my father decided to rent a boat. It had, I don't know what you call, maybe kind of a lancha, but wasn't a very big one. It had seats around the side, and it was motored. There was a motor on it, so we didn't have to do much rowing. But at any rate, we would go over to Leland and get our supplies, or take the car and go around the north side. But it was, we spent the month there, and everybody was afraid. The youngest member, there were 7 children in the 2 families, 3 in my family, and then 4 in my aunt's family, 2 boys and 2 girls. The youngest was 2, and I was next to the oldest. I had a cousin who was 3 months older than I. And they were all afraid that little Martha would be the one who would fall off the dock. But of course, you know who fell off the dock. But I kind of liked it. You see, my astrology sign is the sign of the fish. One going upstream and one going down. And I love water, and I can't make up my mind because the 2 fish counteract each other. But at any rate, it's very convenient to be able to use the astrology sign to go over all my limitations. We, let's see if there's anything else here. I mean, that's the way we came up here. And we came up, other years we might come up 31, and some years, so we kept on 131. I remember the first night, one of the nights that we stayed was in a place called Novi. And now I forgot to look at my map to see just where it is, but we stayed there one night. You know where it is, Joe?
Yeah, that's right down, that's where Joe works.
North Detroit.
Oh.
Yeah. So you really did, you came up almost through Detroit then.
No, I remember Goshen, Indiana. And
Well, they would have come up from Indiana probably into, you think, and then up
we
that.
crossed over Indiana and came up the north from there.
Well, at that time, you wouldn't have stayed in Novi on that trip, but in other ways, you come up, it's sort of like you have a couple options of going to
Yeah.
Dayton. You can either
Well,
go
that's
down
what we
the
did.
center of the state.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, when we got we came up then on 31, is now 131, came to Cadillac, and I remember, I'll never forget, it was the first time that I'd ever seen what I think is a picture of the north, or the feeling of the north. It was an elevation, and we looked to the north, and here was this long, great sweep of land, and I thought right away, this is the Northland, and I always had a peculiar, a wonderful feeling when I think of that first view that I had of this area.
Was there a lot of lumber and trees
Yeah.
that time?
Yeah. And one of the things that I remember what I saw for the first time was an A&P store. And that seemed to, I guess they had a wood red front on it, and that seemed to impress me. We got some things there, but the A&P store, but that great vista of the Northland was something that I still remember very much. And
Julia, I have a question. You said you arrived in the dark that first time. What kind of headlights did you have?
oh, they were funny.
I mean, could you see anything with it?
The headlight from the car?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess we must have, because we stayed on, although we got into the farmer's barnyard, when we came out, we could see, but it was all gravel, where there's no paving at all. But we were able to see, but dimly, and there was this,
I just think how hard it is to even see today
yeah.
when it's raining and it's dark and you don't know
Yeah.
where you are. And I just think of those cars.
Well,
The earliest I remember is got kerosene lamps in.
This
Is
was a,
that cottage still there?
Hmm?
Is that cottage still there?
The cottage is still there, and I forget who owns it, but it's still there. There's a different name, there's a name of Holt next to it, but I don't remember who owns it now.
so you did visit this for several years then?
We were there for several years, and then then it wasn't available, and we went down to Crystal Lake for a while, and then to Platte Lake for a while. And then my uncle bought some property in East Leland, not far from where this cottage was, and built a cabin, and so we we enjoyed that for a number of years. But I think that the idea of when I look back at it, just the simplicity of it, and the things were so good and fresh and clean, and it was just very wonderful to be up here in that particular time of the 20s. Yeah.
Julie, I was wondering, with your outside bathrooms, did they have a catalog in there, or did they have? We always had catalogs.
Yeah, well, we may have, and I'm ashamed to say I don't remember.
I just wondered if it was updated, the
Yeah.
tissue.
There's Roebuck.
We always had catalogs.
Yeah, we did too.
What date was it that you came up from Ohio?
What was it?
What date did you come up from
Date?
Ohio?
Yeah.
1922.
22.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, Fred came up 8 years earlier to this part of the country.
Sure.
That might have been
But
updated.
you heard him from last time.
Mhm.
But no, we came up in 22, and we always were in that northern part of the county. But I think and the sleeping, it didn't seem to make, we had cots to sleep on, we didn't have beds, and the swimming, and we loved to fish, we did our fishing, and really that's about it. Then I came down here with Fred and we were married in 1942, so this is our 50th year. And I've been here ever since. Now let me see, was there anything else see, this isn't exciting.
Oh,
Oh, no, Julia, don't say that.
it's a different,
Remember.
different outlook again from, I enjoyed Fred's outlook of
Yeah.
coming up as a tourist on the boat,
Yeah.
where coming up by land was equally or more of a challenge, obviously, in 1920. Tell us a little bit, I don't think we went into it with Fred much, how once you two were married, how you got into the printing business. I don't think we discussed that much with Fred, as we discussed a lot of things last month, but after you were married, how did you get into the printing business in this
Well,
area?
I was in the printing business before I married Fred.
Yeah,
At the Enterprise.
we've got,
Oh, okay.
And
remember reading you.
I had been living in New York City in 1940, from 1938 to 41. And I was a librarian at Finch School, or Finch Junior College, as it evolved. But after 3 years of New York, I was ready for the North Country, or something less complicated in the city. And in the meantime, I had been writing for the Enterprise. I had a column, and I don't know if I would think that anybody in this county would be interested in New York. But anyway, I had a column I called Now in New York, or I called it From My Window. And
Oh.
the Enterprise
Is
accepted.
that right?
I have some
didn't know
in
that,
the
Julia.
scrapbook.
Yeah.
I got them, it's copies.
Oh, I'm gonna have to
Scrapbook.
put that, right?
And if I don't have them there, I I still got some around.
We're gonna
Yeah.
see. But in the meantime, of course, I get a copy of the paper, and I learned that Dayton Selby had died, and that Gerald was taking over the paper, and that Gerald, I thought, well now, Gerald Selby is superintendent at the, in Suttons Bay. He probably wouldn't have too much time for newspaper. Maybe I'd get a job with him. So I wrote, and he said, yes, but I can't offer you more than $10 a week. And but he said, you could live in the enterprise shop, above the shop. And there again, I had a hand pump and outside facilities. And so I came to Leland in 1941, and then worked through the winter. And in 1942, we had a friend who, maybe you know, A.G. Jordan. He was a kind of a broker. He was Chamber of Commerce, and he told Fred that there's a redhead up at the Enterprise shop. You ought to go up and see her. So sure enough, Fred came up with the original of his big Glen Lake map to see if the Enterprise could print it. He knew darn well that we were a small setup, it would be, but anyway. So we got acquainted, and he asked me to go to some Chamber of Commerce banquet at Omena. And we met on June the 5th of 42, and we were married on July the 25th.
Oh, mackerel.
And we're still married.
Took, huh?
Julia,
But at any rate, he, who had a question?
I was gonna ask you, where was the Enterprise at that time? Where was the print shop at
The
that time?
print shop was, let's see, what?
Was that on the corner?
No, it was, there was Abel Peterson had a store on the corner. Well, you know where the Mercantile is?
Yeah,
Okay, Mercantile was here, we were across and down toward the lake.
down toward the lake,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think that
I
building is
remember
there. I think somebody has that building, but anyway, but in addition to the $10 a week salary, I got to drive a Plymouth car. He gave me the Plymouth car and provided gas if I wanted to go out and get some news items. But I had to do everything. I learned to do a little bit on the line of time, and then I'd send out, I'll never forget, send out notices of overdue subscriptions. But one time, a person came in and I couldn't remember the name, and I thought, well, so I said, well, how do you spell your name? Well, S-M-I-T-H. So that little ploy didn't work. But at any rate, then I came down to Fred and I were married, and then he decided he got interested in the print shop, and he bought it from Carl Detzer.
Was he living here at the time, Fred?
Fred was living where we are now.
Oh, he was here, okay.
Yeah, he built the house that we're living in. He built that, or started in 1938. And then,
So then he actually, or you together, obviously, by that time you were married, bought the print shop.
yeah, he bought them. And much to the disgust of many people, he decided to move the mechanical part down to Glen Lake, and that's what that other building on our property originally was used for. What kind of press was it, at any rate. That's what he built for. And then we sold it. No, we didn't buy it. We bought it from Gerald Selby. We sold it to Carl Detzer. That was it.
Yeah,
So not long after you bought it, you moved the whole operation down to Glen Lake then?
About 2 years after. I think it was about 2 years after. Fred would know definitely more.
Then how long did you have it at Glen Lake?
We had it. We sold it to Carl in 1948.
And you bought it when about? And you bought it what year?
I think we bought it in 1943.
So you just ran it about 5 years.
Yeah, and that was sold.
Now, was it a two-man operation at Glen Lake, literally? Or?
He had an assistant there. But Fred is the kind of person who, he works better on his own. And we had an assistant there, and then I helped a lot too, but not with him again. But Fred's very good at mechanical things, and so he was able to handle most of that.
So you sold the ads and that type of thing?
Yeah.
And wrote the articles?
Then I had a column, and Leland, I called it Leelanau Lookout, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember Nan Helm was quite concerned because I was coming into her territory. And Nan was a well-known writer, and she was the kind of person who could, what she wasn't sure of, she could make up in a wonderful way. Some of her, I have a lot of her columns, they're really worth it. But anyway, now Dorothy knows her too. But
I know the lady, or knew the lady.
but she was quite a character. And,
I loved to listen to her, even though I knew it was a pack of baloney.
But at any rate, but Nan and I were good friends, and so, but that's the story of that. Then Fred sold it in '48, and I kept the column until 1967, and then I decided.
Yeah, no, talk about hauling the newsprint up on the sled for the Enterprise.
Oh, I forgot about that. Who remembers that?
What?
Well, Molly Dorsey made that wooden
Oh, he
sled,
made that, oh, yeah.
and then at that time, we had, in the wintertime, the garage was down by the highway, so we didn't drive up, we had to walk up. But I remember Dad was saying that he put the newsprint on the sled and would pull it up to the studio.
I forgot about that.
What do you mean the newsprint?
The paper
The
to.
paper,
Oh.
we have to have, you know, but no, we didn't have the snow plowing that we have now, thanks to you.
I should have been there.
And so Bonnie Dorsey made a wonderful wooden sled. We still have it. It's really a treasure. And we'd get the print and then it would come print and haul it up on the sled. And I forgot about that. And there are things, if he were here, he's out raking leaves. If he were here, he could answer a lot. You could ask him next time.
Julia, was that illuminated photo with the, fluorescent behind it, was that yours?
Yes.
I had it in the office for years, and then I guess I gave it to Dave.
And now it is back in the Dickinson's home on a
Yeah.
temporary loan from the
It's on
museum.
a loan to us, because it belongs to the museum, yeah. But he did that. And then he went into, Fred was in photography before I met him. He started about 38 in his picture business. And then continued that until around 1950, and then he got into other things. But at any rate, that's how we got up here. But I still remember reading this, and then when it rained in the carpet, you snap on these curtains with a
Ice and glass window.
Yeah.
Did you say this triptych was published by
Apparently we got it from the Dayton Auto Club.
Dayton Auto
But
Club?
this is just what it looked like. We didn't keep it, and it was a little wider, but it was about this length and in this kind of manila.
So it was similar to today when you order a triptych,
Yeah.
only this told you literally where to turn it, what
What
corner.
tree to turn at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some of the roads didn't have names to
Mhm.
them marked, but that's the way that's
So
how.
you really had to be a navigator at that time then.
Yes, it was fun, but it's fun now too.
And
But
she's
that's about
still
it.
great with maps, because that was her big thing when we'd go digging, she could always find the
Exact location.
That.
Well, that's true.
I love maps too.
Julia, how did you get writing for, in New York for the Enterprise? That was just a
Yeah.
job you sort of picked up?
Well, when we spent the summers in East Leland, I started to write a little column called Around East Leland.
Oh,
But I can remember a year, when I was in the 6th grade in school in Dayton, I must have gotten interested in journalism then. At any rate, I wrote an article for the teacher, and so it was something about a house burning, and I said, at the end of it, I said, now, wasn't that a shame? And the teacher said, well, Julia, your facts are very interesting, but I don't think you would end it with kind of a call out. I'm feeling sorry for the house. But I remember that, but I've always been,
When it was around East Leland, because we've got a column around East Leland.
Yeah.
we do have some of those. But you thought it was necessary to end your story with, wasn't that a shame?
That was when I was in the 6th grade.
Mhm. And you were
That's kind of your way of writing which makes it so neat. It's kind of like you're really interested in
Well,
Where some people are just writing facts.
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm still more interested, frankly, in doing something. But when I wrote for the Enterprise, I usually had 3 subjects, 3 items that I'd write about each week, and I still like it.
Now, what do you mean, 3 subjects? Each week the same?
Each week, I'd have, I'd say 3 paragraphs. You might have 1 paragraph might be maybe about how I saw a rabbit crossing the road and how I had to steer the car to avoid it. Somebody else might be somebody who was visiting and had brought something interesting to show. But I mean, I'd try to hit 3 different topics in each column, as I recall.
Julie, when my dad died, which was about 40 years ago now, he wrote the nicest article in the Leelanau Enterprise.
Oh,
Like it
yes.
was- It was a great article.
She also
I
wrote a
still
nice
have
one
it.
about my family.
Yeah.
You sure knew how to
People
write.
have meant a great deal,
Yeah.
and
Dorothy Teach just echoed the same things
Yeah.
about when her father
Yeah.
died, but
Well,
I've seen one.
That's one of the things that used to fuss me about Nan Helm, was she embroidered the facts with a lot of baloney. And I don't like that. I'm more of a researcher. I like it. I don't know, you can add, but I like to have the things, no dreaming.
Baloney can be hard to decipher 40 years later, right?
Yeah.
Historically, to put it simply, where I think it's Julia's way of writing, just like that one, Sarah showed me, the one at Grand Potato, and the way it was done.
That's a great article, great article.
But yours I read was as a fact, but with Nan Helm, I took it with a grain of salt.
Rightfully so.
well, I really enjoy it, and I would enjoy doing something like that again rather than straight news. I'm slowing down, I think, and I'm not writing the way I would like to.
You think you want to slow down. I don't think you're slowing down.
I don't want to, but I thought maybe I was. But anyway.
No, I don't think
I think that if you have any questions, I'll be trying to.
Any other questions of Julia? I think that's an entire, I had never heard her
Well,
story at all. I knew Fred had come up by boat, but
what I remember and what bothers me is about yours is when I remember when I was a kid, there'd be an awful lot of tree stumps. All the land was tree stumps, and there was always smoke burning. You didn't they didn't do that up there.
and probably for Julia, coming from Dayton, Ohio, where it's so flat, I can see
Oh,
when she
yeah.
says, when she hit Cadillac, and you look on 131 now, all of a sudden Cadillac, it unfolds before you, these beautiful hills, and that's probably to me too, other than McGuire sign on a barn here, that welcome to the North.
And there's probably enough young brush to have grown up by then, so if you came in the summer, there'd be leaves to kind of hide those stumps.
Even though in 22, all the clear
Yeah,
cutting would have
that I
been
didn't.
fresh.
Yeah.
Well, it was heavily forested on 131 as we head toward Cadillac. Of course, there was still remnants of lumbering going on then. But of course, where I lived in Dayton, south of Dayton and southeast, it's quite hilly. It gets into almost the touches of the Appalachians. But where we lived in Dayton, it was much. But although Dayton itself is in kind of a hole, and when we were a little bit north of that, it was fairly flat. It was called the prairies in the plains. Yeah.
Well, most of the people, I mean, they used to come up here and they were always about in the store, they'd say, these mountains. And I couldn't think of
Oh, it's
a mountain.
surprising today that people I have come into my store, truck drivers from Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and they talk about coming out of Traverse City up them mountains. Buddy, I haven't seen mountains like, and it doesn't make sense to me. These guys are all over the country.
Yeah, I know, they call them mountains.
Oh, yeah, I'm surprised that these fellas, like, they go from here to Florida every week, but after, I suppose, if they do a lot of trucking in the plains, that maybe this is the opposite of heading south through Virginia and Kentucky, but I've had many people come in saying, boy, you sure got the hills up in this country. So maybe there's more to it than we realize, you know, I think a big...
I often think of Velma Dorsey saying when she first moved here, she was from Mount Pleasant area where it's so flat again, and she felt so hemmed in. she didn't think she could ever get used to.
My brother-in-law, Harry Fitzpatrick from Kansas, he feels that way.
Yeah.
And their ears pop and everything.
Isn't that funny to think of being hemmed in?
We call them flatlanders. No, they do. They come up Morgan Hill and, ooh.
Julia, I remember when I was still home with my father, Fred would come in the, I guess in the spring, or was he living here year round? He would go with a car in a trailer and go up near the dunes and dig up the evergreens. And that trailer would be full of evergreens. He'd come back and plant them.
Yeah.
Maybe he'd go again, or maybe not until the next day, day after day.
Oh, in where it is now.
And then was Fred Fred remembers so much Fred Wilson, who lived down in the Oviatt section, NSA. He would be a brother of Francis Grant, of Fanny Grant.
Fanny.
And this Fred Wilson and Fred had a lot of work on the house, and John Hagel. And Fred, just yesterday was talking about Fred Wilson and how they go over what is now what is Verdictville. By the way, the Verdictville Hill is closed off.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is. So you finally got
Yeah.
fixed that.
For how long?
Till July, I think.
Oh,
Is it really?
don't get excited, it'll be October.
Off and on too.
Then when they get all done, what will be the point? But that's kind of my feeling.
You know, when my mother first
We're 2
came
weeks
across
behind
from
opening.
Belgium, she said she never saw it. She said, this country is nothing but a waste. They're so wasteful in this country. She says, over there, when the wind came up and little boughs or branches were down in the woods, everyone would go up and pick them up. The trees that were just, the forests were perfectly clean. And she says, look at all the wood, she says, that they leave in the woods here. They never pick them up.
That must have been quite a change. When
Yeah,
it
she
was-
said it's
There
just
weren't
a
any
waste.
trees, though. There aren't any trees.
Yeah.
When you think of it, there's a lot of truth in that too.
I don't want anybody taking the dead wood from my woods.
You like it.
Well, the thing is that it rottens and enriches the soil, and also the animals hide in it, and the bushes and stuff that way.
It takes forever because it looks horrible
Yeah.
when you go down.
That's
I
right.
hate
That's
it.
true. I still
It
think
just
it's
looks
better
terrible.
to pick it up. People can use that wood too.
But they won't let
They won't let
the
you do
national park, they won't let you do that, no.
Well, now, but I mean, years ago, you could go in and do it, but the woods,
But there was so, I think there were so
that was the
much,
impression my mother got.
so much.
Well,
You
when-
Agree with your mom.
Yeah.
That's right.
you have much history of the Day Estates. I came here in 27, and I was very young. And used to be out fishing, you know. You'd always look at the water tower up on the hill, and you went until you got, the water tower was out of sight, and then you looked at a couple of landmarks and anchored there. But they were blasting the stumps for that golf course. And then one time I told Ed Cheney, and Ed said, he must be a little older. He was digging the stumps out, and the roots for the golf course. That must have been a tremendous effort. And then the stone gates were, you know, entrances were being made at that time. And then they had signboards, like for the proposed country club or the clubhouse that would be up on the hill. And a polo field even they had.
I don't know if the polo field ever got built or not. Did it, Bernard?
I don't think so. There was like a caddy house up at the top where
That's
the
all it
proposed
ever got
country club or the clubhouse.
When the two places, when it started to do, and then the depression came along, that killed the Glen Lake
But they
golf
must
club.
have put an awful lot into it.
Oh, sure. And the course operated through most of the 30s, I believe. We do have, you asked if we have anything now. We have a scorecard and a layout of the 18 holes in the museum under glass, and some pictures up on the golf course that we were given a few years ago, but not near enough. The National Park has a great big map of the whole complex up there. It's probably as big as this table, if I recall, rolled up, that's on canvas, but they have the whole layout. It's proposed, including the airport, which did get put in down in the Cranberry Marsh, and it was pretty some grandiose plans there, you know, but But it didn't last long. You're right, the Depression, I didn't realize.
I don't think they had golf carts then either.
No, I didn't realize that all this took place after D.H. Day had died. He died in 25.
Oh, yeah.
28, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't put it in perspective that he had already died when this development began. But they did go for a few years, Gil Warnison being a regular and on and on.
Well, they said it was going to be Summer White House at one time, I think, when Coolidge
Well,
was
wasn't that
president.
Inspiration Point area where the summer White House was gonna be? No.
I never
This is over
got the
Alameda
location,
Hill.
Oh,
but
I heard by Inspiration Point they wanted a White House.
Oh,
Okay,
no,
I
I
guess-
don't know.
Right
I got
on
that
Leonard
wrong.
Hill.
Oh,
We had a lot of dreamers around here.
Yeah.
Well, they had a lot of
Your
plans, a
grandpa
lot of
helped
plans.
surveyor
Yeah.
up there. Did you know
Huh?
that? Your grandpa helped,
Oh, Mr. Black, Blackie the surveyor?
he was a surveyor and my dad, your
Yeah.
grandpa,
Yeah,
helped survey that.
yeah. And my father-in-law, I didn't know till years and years later, Sally Novak and Cedar and a bunch of the Cedar boys used to come over and work up there religiously building that course. A whole bunch of them would come over. So it employed a lot of people for those
Yeah.
few years, but I don't know what year it quit. I think we may have a museum, but I don't think it lasted through the mid to late 30s at the most, I don't believe.
I think it opened again after World War II. In about 46, they tried to revive it.
Oh, they did. I hadn't
I
heard.
really think so. We were up there.
Well, they had the two golf courses going, and the area could not afford it.
The other one, of course,
Especially in the bed.
the east end on Big Glen.
That was this
Glen
one.
Lake Golf
Yes.
Course.
That was the one where we learned to play
But you
golf.
are right, there were some real dreamers in this area that had all
Yeah.
kinds of plans. Any other questions of Julia?
I didn't know,
No,
would you like to tell about the canoe trip, the red canoe that you paddled across on Robert Lake Leelanau and stayed all night at Merrill? I thought that was a
Yes.
good story. That's when you,
Well, let's see, that was in, probably between 36 and 40, I guess, 1930. And I love canoe, I had been on a wonderful canoe trip up in Canada, and we had a canoe at the cottage in East Leland, and I decided I wanted to explore. So I got in the canoe and headed south from North Lake Leelanau through the Narrows and on down to the end of Glen Lake, Lake Leelanau, and then went up, now is that Victoria Creek? Down at the end of, the south end of
Victoria Creek, it's the Cedar River or whatever.
Cedar River, yeah.
Mhm.
Cedar River. And then I paddled up that, and then it was getting a little bit dark, so I anchored the canoe apparently behind a couple of the saloons in Cedar, because all night I heard all of this
Cedar was wild.
noise and all this excitement, and I thought, well, I better stay in the canoe because I was by myself and the mosquitoes were pretty bad.
Oh.
But anyway, it was until the next morning then. I'm not sure whether I slept much or not. I'm not sure. But at any rate, I got out and then I paddled up north and arrived at the cottage the next day. But that was what you made.
that was an experience.
I guess.
That was great.
Yeah.
She'd worry about you if you did that, wouldn't she?
My mother wasn't there, my aunt was there, and she said, well, Julia, if you want to, I know she didn't want me to go, but I was grown up.
Was there any thought of being an overnighter when you left or not?
That's what I would do.
And had you thought?
Oh,
that-
I think, oh, yes, I knew I couldn't get back
Oh,
the same
okay.
day. Yeah, I wouldn't be over
I
there.
think she was adventurous.
Yeah,
I think so.
That was quite a
the mosquitoes must have been
Well,
bad.
8 years is bliss, and I wasn't sure about that. So, I would have done it maybe 10 years later, but.
That's quite a trip for that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and it was a fairly, it was about 18-foot canoe.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice.
It wasn't too small a canoe, but I have learned how to sit in a canoe and kneel in the canoe, not sit on the seat, because if you kneel, then your sense of the gravity is a little bit below the gunnels or something like that. And I had learned how to paddle a canoe when I was up in Canada, so.
Where did you go canoeing in Canada?
Yeah,
Where was
that's a-
that trip in Canada?
Up in Mississauga
That's
region.
a wonderful story.
Yeah, that was a trip, Mississauga River. up to Sudbury, he'd go to Sudbury, and then down,
Oh.
yeah,
Quite a learning experience.
yeah, it was.
Any other questions of Julia? If not, we sure appreciate her sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you very much
Well,
for
thank you.
listening.
That was good.
Oh, okay, thanks.
They throw the garbage in. They dig it.
Oh.
About the tree that lines out.
Okay.